Now, if you're listening to this show, chances are there was at least a time in your life that you, if you're not currently doing it, that you collected baseball cards. As John knows very well, I have during COVID, I lost my mind with my son and started buying all these baseball, thousands and thousands of
The
baseball
phrase
cards.
"hog wild" comes to mind.
You were investing.
Yeah, they're paying off. Yeah, if you want that Duke Snyder card, that's
There was
up on
a
eBay.
box break every other day in the Toucher household.
Absolutely, and but we've all when we were kids, like it's odd because you would be looking for that Ken Griffey Jr. rookie, you would be looking for that Tony Gwynn rookie, you would be looking for that famous Cal Ripken rookie, and oddly enough, the Cal Ripken rookie and the certainly the Ken Griffey Jr. rookies are almost of no value. So that's good to know because that was the junk wax era. It's certainly not the Cal Ripken Jr. But for some reason, I have a Cal Ripken Jr. graded, and it's not worth anything.
Even the upper deck Griffey is now worthless.
I think that I mean, they're not worthless.
I have that in a frame. You're telling me that's not worth anything?
Yeah, you have like all his ones in the frame, right?
I do. All the
think,
rookie cards.
I think the reason they're presented that way is their lack of value. I think that there was a huge value to it. But anyway, the point is this. I've gone through my parents' attic at their old place at their new place as an adult, searching for baseball cards, and I found some, and there was like an Ozzie Smith rookie, and I lost my mind. That's why I think that we all believe that this is an interesting story. It's been on the news. Guy's name is Jeff Gross. Jeff, thank you for joining us, sir.
Hey, good morning. I can tell I'm talking to collectors here.
Yes, we are all nerds. All right, so here's the deal. Just you tell us what happened recently. You tell us. I won't tell the story. You do.
Sure. So, you mentioned a gold ticket, I think, on your promo. That's kind of what I find myself in. So there are a lot of us nerdy collectors out there, and we were selling my wife's childhood home and had a yard sale. And, of course, nothing sells at yard sales, but a gentleman rides by on his bicycle and just starts striking up a conversation with my wife, and I hear baseball cards. So, of course, I'm bored by the yard sale. I lean in to hear more. And he said, I inherited this collection from my dad, and they're pretty old. And he mentions Cy Young, Ty Cobb, and I'm like, okay, this is big boy stuff, right? And so we make arrangements to get together, and about a month later, so he sends me a spreadsheet with all the cards, and I know more about cards than I should, probably like you guys, but I recognize them all except for one spreadsheet, and I don't know these, and it says Sunlight Bakery, Morehouse Baking, and I don't know what these are. So I reach out to my expert, someone who knows the hobby even more than I do, and again, I know way more than I need to. And my expert, he says, I don't know what these are either. I'm like, okay, what could they be? So he reaches out to his expert, and one of the names on the list is Joe Jackson. And this is 1916. So I'm like, all right, this is Shoeless Joe before he got bounced from baseball. So I'm like, okay, this is a big deal because Joe Jackson cards are pretty hard to find from that era. So the expert's expert sends me a text, and he said, if this card is proven to be real, your friend has a card that was only rumored to exist. And I'm like, okay,
wow.
This is a big deal.
Yeah, wow.
So the last part of the story is as if it hadn't already blown my mind, gets even better, because now I'm super excited. I'm clearly not going to be able to afford to buy the collection, and I'm thinking, maybe I can help him sell it or find the right strategy to sell it. So a couple of days before, I'm already pretty jazzed up to go and see his collection at his home. And so I said, hey, you still good for Sunday? He's like, yeah. By the way, I found a few more cards. And I went, you did? What are they in the same Morehouse collection? He goes, yeah, they are. And then he mentioned something, and I asked my wife to read this text. I said, am I reading this right? And he said something about the better of the two Babe Ruth cards. And I went, oh, boy.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Turns out that these cards have never been bought and sold in the hobby, at least publicly. They've never been graded. Sounds like you understand the grading process.
But I do want to get into that. I do want to get into that. I do want to get into that.
Sure.
So first of all, this guy has got these cards. If you wanted to have, do you think that you could have gone to the guy and gone, I'll buy your collection for $1,000?
He's a very smart guy.
Okay.
So no, but I will tell you, and it's not great. Most of the people in the hobby as collectors and dealers are good people, but there's a sketchy factor out there. And I've bought and sold pretty expensive cards before, not at this level. The Ruth card is in the REA auction starting tomorrow at noon, and the minimum bid's $150,000.
Yeah, I want to get into that, but I want to talk about keep going with the honesty part. Go.
The honesty thing. Yeah. So I reached out to a couple of guys that I know, probably on the same Facebook vintage pages that you all know, or there's also a message board called Net54 where these crazy advanced collectors all kind of, share knowledge. And I talked to a couple of people that do buy big collections, and they gave me advice on how to approach the purchase of this collection. And this is that's really lousy. I mean, they could have taken advantage of him. But again, I don't think you could have walked in and offered $1,000, but if someone walked in and looked at the collection and said, I have $50,000 cash in my wallet here, would he have sold? I don't know. But it's been a super fun process because we pretty much partnered on this. But yeah. I mean, when people find these things and go search your attic today, especially if you're in Lawrence, Massachusetts, where the Morehouse Baking Company used to be, my advice is don't go to a card show to sell it.
No.
Yeah.
No, because their job is to undercut.
You know that.
Yeah.
You guys know that. If you go to a card show, people walk around with these wonderful cards and they say to dealers, hey, you buying? And the dealer's like, if I can turn it around fast, of course I can. And here's 60% of the retail value.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind why people do that.
Okay, so you get these cards, you see these cards. Now they're not graded, they're loose cards. And so now you're dealing with like a fragile lottery ticket. Any mishandling of this can lower the grade. Any finger smudging, dust, anything can do this. So what's the process? So now you have, let's say, I mean, you might have $1 million worth of cards here. So you go, all right, what's the next step? So you guys have the cards and you're working with the cards. What do you do at this point?
So the nerd collectors here will appreciate this. So the National Sports Card Convention is held every year, and this year it was in Cleveland. And it fortunately happened to be 2 weeks after I met with him. So I booked a ticket and flew out to Cleveland with one purpose, which is to go interview the major auction houses. And I knew this was a substantial find. So no offense to the moderate-sized ones. I just went to the big guys. I went to Heritage, I went to Golden, and I went to REA. And it was pretty clear to me. I brought one or two of the raw cards, not the Ruth, of course. I'm not traveling with that. But one or two of the raw common cards just so they could look at it to verify they were real, and photos of the rest. And all three of those companies were pretty excited about this. My day job is I do business deals in healthcare, and the collector and I sat down in my nerdy baseball room. I sent you some photos, by the way.
Yeah, it's very impressive. It's very impressive.
That's a COVID project there.
Yeah, I can relate.
Huh?
I can relate. Yeah, COVID. Yeah,
yeah, right.
I did the same
we
thing.
can share stories, and we just went through and decided that REA was the best company, and we have certainly not regretted that decision.
And now they get those graded through, because I see they're graded through PSA. Did they get those? Do you hand the collection over and then they handle it? They handle the grading.
Yeah, that was a fun part of the story too. When we reached out to REA, the president and owner of REA, Brian Dwyer, great guy. Young guy, he owns the company. He actually, when we told him on Friday, I'm losing track of my dates. We told him on a Friday that we've decided to move forward with him. He booked a flight and flew into Logan on Monday, and came here in this little baseball room of mine with the owner, myself, and Brian. Signed contracts, handed over the cards, and then we drove to Lawrence and took pictures of the Ruth and Jackson in front of the former Morehouse Baking Company building, which is still there. So that was kind of cool. Okay,
and so I saw you sent Adam the catalog. So this is all being auctioned off. There's this huge, legit looking catalog. How much are they guessing? Because I know what you guys are asking, and it's going to go for more. How much do you estimate approximately what this collection will go for at auction?
Well, with all my conversations with folks, I think the speculation is that there's two routes. Only one is available in this particular auction. The speculation is that's going to be somewhere in the range of $500,000. And then the rest of the cards that are in there, Joe Jackson, Jim Thorpe, the Olympian, there's one in there when he's with the New York Giants, bunch of Hall of Famers. And there's some thought that the rest of those combined might be another 50 to 100K.
Okay, so just real quick, why is the Babe Ruth card? Because that mantle sold at auction for what was it, like $2.5 million? What did the mantle sell for?
Yeah, it's over $2 million.
Yeah, why is the Babe Ruth? Because it's in decent condition. It's a 3.5. Why is the Babe Ruth estimated at $500,000 and just at $500,000?
I would like to ask the really wealthy guys that same question. I'm not entirely sure. I don't spin around at that level. I read the same stories probably that most collectors do. I suppose, that image that you see on that Babe Ruth card was a commonly used image used by the Sporting News initially. And then they subbed it out to companies like the Morehouse Baking Company, where they put it in loaves of 10-cent bread to incentivize kids to buy bread. So maybe it's because there are other, what they call advertising backs than this one. Supply and demand. I mean, this is truly, I was going to say one of one. I guess in this case it's 2 of 2, right? 2 of 2 known cards.
Well, it's cool. So how much do you think, I stopped you before you said, so Babe Ruth, it's going to go over 500,000. The Joe Jackson, you said, is in six figures too. How much do you think this whole thing goes for at the end of the day?
I think the Morehouse cards themselves, which is everything that's in the REA auction, is probably between $600,000 and $700,000 total. But there's another Ruth card that they're auctioning off in the next auction sometime in the spring, I think. I don't know the dates. And also, and I'm literally staring at them right now, he has another 800 cards. Most of them are pre-war, what they call T205s, and T206s. So these are cards that were tucked in packs of cigarettes back in 1910. Because what better way to incentivize kids to smoke than to put their favorite baseball player in there, right?
They should still do that.
Yeah. So I've been helping sell those cards privately. Like I said, I buy and sell. But for something of this rarity, that needed to go to auction. But I've been having a ball selling his other tobacco cards online. I bought a few myself.
Where do you sell them at? What site?
Yeah, I have a website myself, but I don't sell there. That's to help people sell, so they don't get taken at card shows. But no, there are several Facebook pages that are dedicated to vintage cards, and there are 4 or 5 that are really good, low on the scammer rate. So if anybody has cards and they want to learn how to sell on Facebook, they can reach out to me. I'll tell you the 3 or 4 sites that I trust the most. But there's a really good community out there, and you can avoid the knuckleheads.
Yeah, that's good. Well, listen, you showed Adam that you have a rookie George Brett, a card that I have as well.
Right?
How much is that worth?
More in our hearts than in our wallet, I'm afraid to say. I don't know, a couple $100, $300.
Yeah,
one of those too.
Even the mini one, even the because I got the little one. It's not the big one.
It's funny, yeah. I can tell from your question. Back in the day, the mini used to be valued more, and there's not much of a premium anymore on the mini over the normal one. But
I don't care for that.
When people come to me all the time, and since the story broke, I've had a lot of people say, "Hey, can you help me sell my cards?" I'm like, I'd love to. Tell me what you have. Well, I got a bunch of cards from the mid-'80s to the early '90s, and I have to break the news to them, which is there's really no financial value. They're fun cards,
Right.
Bo Jackson, the Billy Ripken era card, all that stuff. They're fun cards. They're just not terribly valuable.
No.
But I'm trying to help them learn how to sell themselves, because you can sell them. You just have to have, reasonable expectations. It's the crazy old stuff where the big money and the insane collectors are,
or the one of one new stuff. Like, I mean, Luka Doncic at auction just went for $1 million. So, I mean, there are new cards, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know much about that. I'm not into that.
Yeah,
but
it's not as fun, but I believe, my most expensive cards that I have are new. So, yeah, that's for sure. All right.
Well,
listen.
you're all invited to visit my baseball cave, and that's an honest offer. And anyone who comes to visit and puts up with my boring tour and walkthrough of all the stories behind these players, because there's some wacky guys to talk, Rube Waddell and others, you get to open a free pack of 1987 Topps baseball cards, and if you're brave enough, you can chew the 40-year-old gum.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
nice. A little
Sign
rectangle.
me
I
up.
like
yeah,
it.
and that in '87, that's a 25-cent investment for you, Mr. Gross.
That's how much I care about my guests, though. Fred.
That's right. Jeff Gross.
Wait. Maybe you'll be more impressed with this. I'm selling myself short. You have three choices. I'm looking at the boxes now. The '87 Topps pack, which is kind of popular with my friends and guests because they like to say they chewed 40-year-old baseball gum. 1990 Upper Deck, which is not valuable, but they're cool-looking cards, second-year Griffey. The one that I think if you come to visit you'll want is I have a box of 89 Fleer, and I specifically bought this box from an unopened guy who was able to assure me that it had the right serial number, that it does have the error card for Billy Ripken, and any of your collectors that know anything. And someone actually pulled an FF card for Billy Ripken from this box.
If you don't know, there was a run of cards where Billy Ripken had on the butt of his bat F face, and and they found it too late, and so there's a certain printing of cards that have that on it.
Very valuable.
And well, I guess not, but yeah. So the Brett card's not worth that much. I didn't think it was worth like a ton, but I mean, look at.
Enough to buy us lunch.
Yeah.
Nice show lunch.
Yeah, no,
That was Missoula.
Those cards from the 70s, I don't know. I mean, when I got into vintage heavy about 6 or 8 years ago, I kind of made a note to myself, like, I'm not doing this to make money. I don't want to lose money, which I haven't. You know, they've appreciated, but you know, it's hard to make money in this hobby. You can, but you know, it's speculators. It's tough. If you're a collector and you love the cards and you love the stories of the players and so on, you can enjoy it and make some money, but I've never been a big fan of saying, okay, and you can.
It's a huge pain in the ass. I mean, really, if you want to make money at it, it's a huge pain in the ass, and it's like, and then you're playing the lottery at a certain point. I understand what you're saying. You gotta like them, because if you don't value them, then what's the point, you know? All right, Jeff Gross, listen, it's very exciting. How do people get in touch with you if they want? Do you have your own website? What is it?
I do. It's nice of you to ask. Jeff Gross Vintage Baseball Cards. Very, very creative name. I hope people know what I do.
Oh, that's not what you want out of it. You want it to be uncreative.
You don't want to get cute.
Yeah,
you don't want to know where they can find you.
Wallach's.
With a last name like Gross, it's hard to forget that name, and it's vintage baseball cards. So
there you go. John Wallach's
to find it pre-1970 vintage baseball cards.
Yeah, John Wallach's in radio, and his effing social media tag is Ken Griffey Rules.
Very catchy.
Ken Griffey does rule.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
That's
Take
terrible
that,
marketing.
Toucher.
His marketing does not rule. All right, Jeff Gross, thank you so much for the time. It's everyone's favorite.
All right, guys, great talking to you. And don't forget, come by so you can dig into one of these packs.
Absolutely.
No problem. And by the way, that Mickey Mantle card, we were talking about Mantle rookie, $12 million.
Yeah, I don't know why
1952 Mantle, $12 million.
I suppose it's just I don't know. It's like you said, it's all speculative. Who knows?